Mention the word idolatry in front of most people, and if you don't get a strange look, they'll at least assume you're talking about people who worship physical idols. You know, statues or representations of gods. One thing that Presbyterians have always known deep down is that idolatry runs much deeper than that and really implicates all of us. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Tuesday, September 17th, 2024. John Calvin, widely recognized as the founder of our branch of the Christian family tree, is a font of great quotes about many aspects of the Christian faith. His most famous work, called The Institutes of the Christian Religion, was written not for scholars, but for the church. And as such, he writes in a more passionate way than other theologians of the day, and he frequently uses things like sarcasm as rhetorical tools. I say that simply to suggest that he can be a very provocative writer. One of his more provocative discussions has to do with idolatry. In it, he manages to skewer just about everybody. And that's because his definition of idolatry is much broader than just statues of gods. In one of my favorite passages, he writes, "We may gather that man's nature, so to speak, is a perpetual factory of idols." A perpetual factory of idols. I love that. But it begs the question, what is idolatry? Well, we already know that idolatry includes the worship or veneration of physical or visible objects that represent God or the gods. Think statues that people pray to. But that's just kind of a superficial understanding of idolatry. Idolatry is really about worshiping or reverencing anything besides God. Obviously, this might include the worship of other gods, just as it might include the practice of venerating objects devoted to the gods. But Calvin also believed that it includes making any physical or visual representation of God that we might substitute for God. And for him, that included the cross. That's right, even a physical cross could, for Calvin, become an idol. How? Because for many, the cross itself becomes an object of veneration in place of God, and it can foster a kind of superstition, as in believing that the presence of the cross confers a kind of holiness on the worshiper just by looking at it, and a kind of safety by holding on to it. Clearly, Calvin's thoughts about the cross sort of died on the vine, but his deeper point is still valid. Idolatry can be called a kind of superstition, like carrying a rabbit's foot or some other object that we believe will bring us luck or safety or good fortune. The problem with superstition is that it is a way of saying that our fate is in the hands of some other power besides God. And that is clearly not tenable in the life of faith. But there is yet another kind of idolatry, and this is deeper seated, one that's more widely practiced and more insidious still. Let me approach it this way. One of the ways to define who God is to ask ourselves the question, on whom or on what do we place our trust in life? And while most of us would say we trust God, our lives tell a very different story. We trust in our sense of belonging to some group or tribe, some association that we believe will give us status and security. Nations can function this way. We place a lot of trust in belonging to a particular nation to give us peace and security. And they do, of course, but our trust often goes far beyond what they can offer. Wealth is another one. We believe that if we just have enough money, we won't have to worry, but we find that no matter how much we have, it's never enough. It never fully satisfies. It is a false god. And of course, the last idol we worship tends to be ourselves, our own needs and wants, our own existence, our own interests, even our own survival. We prioritize above all else, and we trust ourselves more than we trust God. In a very real sense, then, we become our own idols. To put it in other terms, one of the key elements of sin, which we talked about last week, is that we often love the wrong things, and even when we love the right things, we love the right things wrongly. We love God, but we often love God for what God can do for us. And once again, we become the center of value and meaning in our lives. So yes, we Presbyterians have a heightened awareness of the pervasiveness of idolatry in the world and in our own lives. It is one of the things that makes a Presbyterian a Presbyterian. And now may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.